After being abandoned by a scumbag in my first love, I stepped up as the father without hesitation, feeling no pain at all. When my daughter was bullied at 14, I took matters into my own hands and put a few punks out of commission, earning myself an 8-year prison sentence. 8 years later, as she was about to marry into a wealthy family, my daughter suddenly had a bloodline awakening and wanted to cut ties with me to reconnect with her biological father. She even hurled insults my way, saying, "You, as someone with a criminal record, don't deserve to attend my wedding. I called you dad for 22 years, consider that your bargain. My life was given by my biological father, so the wedding gifts should go to him." I said it was all fine, as long as she was happy. Later, she came back crying and begging me, "Dad, I won't leave again. I'll stay and take care of you, provide for you in your old age." I held my newborn daughter close and avoided her, saying, "No need, I have a new child now. I'm a simple-hearted man." From childhood, I had neither father nor mother, growing up shuffled between foster homes. When I grew up, I became an apprentice at a factory and fell in love with the boss's daughter. She seems to like me too, always finding excuses to scold me for no reason. The scolding gradually turned into teasing, and she asked me what kind of girl I wanted to marry. I wanted to say someone like you, but I was too poor, the words stuck in my throat. In the end, I could only watch helplessly as she married some college-educated guy. Later, after learning the trade, I started my own company and gradually accumulated some savings, gaining courage along the way. I met many women but never felt my heart stir again. I thought I was doomed to a lonely life, yet she returned. Only, her youthful charm was gone, and she was carrying 6 months of pregnancy. That college student had spent all her dowry money before abandoning her 5 months pregnant to swindle another wealthy girl. Her father blamed himself for misjudging back then. His hair turned white overnight as he desperately sought matchmakers to arrange suitors for her. She wanted to find a man willing to marry into her family, even if he had some disability. But she refused. What wrong have people with disabilities done? Don't use my misfortune to ruin others. I took her out for a meal and recalled how I'd smiled while seeing her off to her wedding back then, yet turned around and wept like a fool. She called me a coward, saying she'd meet me in the next life, but told me not to pretend to be a saint again. I said there's no need for the next life, haven't I come for you now? Abort his child, and I'll marry you. Her smile and tears froze on her face. Her body trembled violently. Through that tight sweater, I could see it all too clearly. It was the baby moving inside her belly. Suddenly enraged, she struck her trembling abdomen twice and burst into tears. "Leo, if I'd realized sooner that I married a monster, I would never have kept this cursed child. But now the baby can already move. Abortion would be murder. I can't bring myself to do it. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't want to burden anyone. Let's not meet again, you still need to marry someday." She spoke these words while rising to leave. I drained my whiskey glass in one gulp and grabbed her hand. "Then have the baby, I'll provide for it." I clenched my teeth and spoke the most resolute words of my life. She froze momentarily, then pounded my shoulders amidst tears and laughter. "Leo, oh Leo, I'll remember your kindness all my life, but I truly can't ruin you. Give up on this notion." I absolutely refuse. Early the next morning, I sent a matchmaker to propose marriage and ask for her hand. Not a penny less in betrothal gifts. She immediately chased the matchmaker away, yelling that she would never marry in this life. A few days later, her father personally delivered her to my home, skipping all the elaborate ceremonies. As long as I didn't mind her, without another word, I pulled her along to get our marriage certificate. Holding her heavy body at night, I felt somewhat at a loss. She considerately turned her back to me, not letting me see her belly. When relatives and friends heard I'd taken on this mess, they rushed to warn me. They said I was passing up perfectly good single girls to marry a divorced woman. I must have fallen into some trap set by the Chloe family. Some people also gave me advice, saying there's nothing wrong with marrying a divorcee, but you must absolutely not take in the child she brings along. But Chloe wants to have a baby, and I agreed. I confessed honestly. The relatives' eyes darted around before saying, "Giving birth is one thing, but whether the child lives or dies upon being born won't be up to her." Right, we absolutely can't let this child be born alive," the voices chimed in. Everyone chimed in, offering various suggestions. So many ways exist to make an unborn child disappear, all completely undetectable. With each proposal, I felt both tempted and terrified. I ultimately rejected everyone's ideas. Yet that night, I dreamt of Chloe giving birth to a stillborn. Our daytime thoughts shape our nightly dreams. My subconscious truly refuses to accept this child. But it was also true that I wanted to be with Chloe. Chloe sensed my anguish and went to the hospital without telling me. The doctor said it was too late in gestation. An induced abortion carried great risk and required my signature. My hand trembled as I held that pen with power over life. In the end, I never let it touch the paper until a month later, when that paper became Chloe's critical condition notice after a difficult childbirth. I muttered "Save the mother" while trembling as I signed my name. At that moment, I absolutely loathed the little thing in her belly. His father, relying on his charm, stole the woman I loved. After we finally reunited, he pushed my beloved toward death's door again. If he had been the one to survive, I would have made sure he died. During those long, torturous hours, I devised 100 ways to exact my revenge. 2 hours later, the delivery room door finally opened. A nurse stepped out holding a small bundle and called for me. Chloe's family? The baby's here. Mother and daughter are both safe. The word safe dissolved every ounce of hatred in me. When the nurse placed a wrinkled little baby in my hands, my heart melted. I had never known life could be so miraculous, nor had I ever realized human babies could be this adorable. She opened her tiny eyes and quietly studied me, as if examining whether I qualified as her father. I held my breath, afraid that even the slightest startle might make her never let me hold her again. What a lucky little girl, to have a father who loves her so much. The nurse noticed my genuine delight and gave her cheek an affectionate pinch with a smile. Yes, my heart overflowed with love, yet I didn't know how to express it. All I knew was to buy her the best formula and to gather her in my arms the moment she cried. My wife laughed and scolded me. How can you hold a child like that? Once they get used to it, you'll never be able to put them down. I grinned foolishly. I hadn't wanted to put her down anyway. My wife secretly wiped her tears. A daughter's good. When she grows up she'll marry off, out of sight and out of mind. In a few years we'll have a son to care for us in our old age. No, this one is enough for me, I quickly said, covering my daughter's ears, afraid she might hear. Let her take your surname, my wife said. You choose her name. I felt flattered and overwhelmed, spending days flipping through dictionaries and baby naming books before finally settling on a name. Summer. I hoped this little girl born in spring would be as warm and bright as summer. On Summer's 1-month birthday celebration, I hosted a feast at the town's finest restaurant. A tipsy relative pounded the table indignantly on my behalf. My brother has been blind his whole life, working himself to the bone raising another man's daughter, only to have his family fortune divided among someone else's offspring. Tell me, isn't that a raw deal? I snatched the glass and splashed the wine in his face. Summer is my daughter. If you dare spout such nonsense again, I'll tear your mouth to shreds. This meal was meant to be a warning to everyone from the very beginning. Whoever dares to speak ill shall be my enemy. After the full moon banquet, my marriage finally stabilized. No one was there to boss me around anymore. As life settled into its routine, filled with mundane chores, I realized Chloe and I weren't really that compatible after all. She had been to university, married an intellectual, loved reading, and lived a refined life. While I was just a rough fellow, whenever she wanted to have a heart-to-heart, I always drew a blank. But with our newborn daughter, I never ran out of things to talk about. My daughter, me, quack 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 quack. Every time I do this, she giggles and waves her little arms and legs in delight. I spend every moment outside of work with her. She's grown taller, chubbier, sprouted teeth, grown hair. I remember every bit of her growing up. Her first step was guided by my hand. The first character she wrote was taught by me. The first words she spoke were daddy. It was the most beautiful sound in the world, like heavenly music. On her first day of kindergarten, she clung to my neck and wouldn't let go. Chloe ruthlessly took her from my arms and handed her to the teacher, while I hid behind a tree crying like a fool. She adapted quickly and stopped crying the next day. Watching her walk away without looking back, I cried even harder. At night, Chloe said, Leo, I want to give you a son. I quickly shook my head. Keep your voice down, don't let our daughter hear. I didn't want a son, at least not then. I was afraid all my fatherly love wouldn't even be enough for Summer. There's no more to give to another child. Chloe wouldn't give up and went to tease Summer again, asking if she wanted a little brother or sister to play with. Summer pouted, no, I only need daddy to keep me company. Father and daughter shared the same heart. Holding Summer, I burst into laughter while Chloe stamped her feet in frustration. Chloe's plan was thus thwarted. Summer grew day by day, and in the blink of an eye, she turned 12. She entered her rebellious phase. In 7th grade, she started sneaking off to internet cafes with her classmates. I directly set up a computer in her room, playing online games with her every day and joining her in farming games on social media. After much effort, I finally settled her down, and she smoothly made it through 7th grade. But one day in 8th grade, she disappeared again. Her classmates said she had been scouted by a talent agent and went to record a show at some TV station. I drove over 800 miles and found her outside the TV station in the early hours of the morning. My legs were shaking so badly I could barely stand. She ran the moment she saw me. When I caught her, she started screaming, saying I wasn't her father, that I was trying to kidnap her. I held back again and again, just barely stopping myself from slapping her across the face. Instead, I gently patted her head. Be good now. Daddy's here for you. After the show, I'll take you home. When the TV station opened its doors, the program staff gave her a lesson on my behalf. They absolutely don't accept minors. Impossible, I've already paid the registration fee. Here's the receipt your scout gave me. She pulled out a receipt, and the words 50,000 USD in full nearly made me faint on the spot. The organizers were terrified and quickly distanced themselves, We don't have scouts, let's call the police. Summer, where did you get this money? I pointed at the receipt and asked her. She replied without a care, in your safe, of course. You've always said all your money belongs to me. I was left speechless. I did say that. She met a man at the school gate, a talent scout for the show. He said she had an exceptional aura and would surely become an overnight sensation if she joined the show. That person also said that her parents definitely wouldn't want her to drop out of school to become a celebrity, so she couldn't tell her family for now. The next day, she went to school carrying $50,000 in cash. After paying the money, she spent a whole day showing off to her classmates, then skipped school on the third day and took a long-distance bus to the TV station. That was in 2014. $50,000 was equivalent to a month's salary for dozens of my employees. I couldn't bring myself to hit her, but once back home, Chloe gave her a good beating. I didn't stop her. This incident made me realize a serious problem. Summer is too gullible and willful. I did say all my money was hers, but I also told her she needed to inform Dad before spending it. Yet she only remembered the first part. Those $50,000 ultimately went down the drain. That so-called talent scout who approached her must have had his eyes on her for a while, knowing her family was well off. She also knew to avoid the surveillance cameras at the school gate. I listened in horror. This meant she had been targeted long ago. What's more, it was likely the work of someone she knew. Yet despite the police creating a suspect sketch based on her description, none of us recognized the face. For her safety, I had no choice but to escort her myself every single day, rain or shine. And he kept reminding her over and over that she must tell her father wherever she goes, so at least he'd know where to rescue her. She promised earnestly. But after that running away incident, she completely lost interest in studying, and her grades plummeted. I could only console myself, thinking as long as she's safe and sound, that's enough. Yet she couldn't even manage that. When 9th grade started, the school instituted evening self-study sessions. I grew increasingly uneasy, personally picking her up every night without fail, rain or shine. One day in October, when evening self-study ended and all the other students had left, she still hadn't come out, nor was she in the classroom. I called the security guards and teachers, and after searching for half the night, we finally found her in the stairwell behind the cafeteria. She was in a dreadful state, breathing weakly. My heart shattered, aching so fiercely I could barely draw breath. Chloe passed out on the spot, and both mother and daughter were rushed to the emergency room. Summer's test results hit me like a ton of bricks. The doctor said she might be left with lifelong disabilities. My vision darkened as I tightly grasped her hand. Who did this? Tell Daddy, and I'll kill them. She shook her head in terror. No, it's my fault. I'm not good enough. Seeing her like this broke my heart. Not getting rid of that little bastard who hurt her would make me unworthy as a father. I had someone send her to the best hospital in New York overnight while I stayed behind to investigate the truth. The police reviewed the school's surveillance footage and found that 3 boys and 2 girls had followed Summer to that corner that night. That was a blind spot for surveillance cameras. No one knew what had transpired between them. The police had the school summon the students seen in the video. Unanimously, they claimed they hadn't seen Summer that night. Their parents, as if by prior agreement, also refused to come to the school to assist with the investigation. They were all minors. Without their guardians present, the police had no choice but to let them go home. My eyes burned with fury as I zeroed in on one of the boys. I followed him to his home parking lot, blocking his car door to prevent him from stepping out. His father tried to reason with me, but I kicked him aside without hesitation. I issued a deadly warning. Tell your son to confess everything if you want to live. If not, I'll trade 1 life for 2, fair deal. The boy pissed himself right then and there, sobbing as he spilled what happened that night. That night, they had all taken part in hurting Summer. The ringleader was a boy named Kyle, who had even recorded videos and taken photos. You bastards! Summer's just a little girl, what did she ever do to you? I grabbed him by the collar and slapped him across the face. He sobbed, because she betrayed Kyle. She talked to another boy. Seeing murder in my eyes, the boy's father knelt and begged for mercy. My son was coerced too. The mastermind is Kyle. I know where he lives, I can take you there. Drive. If any of you dare tip them off, I'll kill you first. I plopped down beside the boy. An hour later, the boy's father tricked his way into Kyle's home. The moment Kyle's mother showed her face, I exploded. She was the sister of Ryan Peterson, Chloe's ex-husband. Back then, it was all thanks to her silver tongue that her father arranged Chloe's marriage to Ryan. Oh, Mr. Miller, what brings you here? She propped herself against the doorframe, feigning ignorance with me. I raised my foot and kicked the door, slamming her against the wall as I strode into her house. Kyle, get the hell out here. Here I am. What do you want? A tall boy charged out waving a fruit knife. It was him, the most sinister of the 3 boys. The way he brandished the knife made him look even more ferocious, a born demon through and through. Hand over your phone. I caught a glimpse of the bulge in his pants pocket and lunged to grab it. Without hesitation, he stabbed straight at my chest. I seized his wrist and twisted it forcefully, making his bones emit ominous cracks. Beads of cold sweat instantly appeared on his forehead as his mother shrieked, "Let go of my son. We can talk this out properly." I pinned him against the wall with the hilt of my knife and fished his phone from his pocket, forcing him to unlock it. When he hesitated, I flipped the blade and pressed it to his throat. Only then did he chicken out, unlocking the screen as ordered and opening the photo gallery. The first image was the horrific sight of Summer, utterly inhuman. Animal. I drove my knee viciously into him. He let out a wretched howl and collapsed writhing on the ground in agony. Son, are you okay? Does it hurt? His mother threw herself over him, yanking down his pants for a frantic examination. The father of the other boy was dialing the police but, seeing me suddenly go berserk, tried to drag his son away and flee. I grabbed the boy by the collar and lifted him into the air like a chicken, then slammed him hard onto the ground. The boy's face hit the ground full force. When his father flipped him over, blood was already gushing from his nostrils. Murder! Murder! Help! Someone help! The boy's father bolted out the door in a desperate escape, abandoning his own son. By the time the police arrived, I was sitting at the entrance of Kyle's residential complex, my hands covered in blood. Kyle and that boy had already been taken away by an ambulance. They won't die, but they're done for life. An eye for an eye, that's the only thing I, as a father, could do for my daughter. I called Chloe and told her to take good care of Summer. Then I had her put the phone to our daughter's ear. Fighting back tears, I gave her these parting words. Good child, Daddy has avenged you. No one will dare bully you anymore. Don't be afraid. She became even more terrified, crying out, Daddy, what did you do to Kyle? It's nothing, he won't die. I could hear my own heart bleeding, and I was grateful she never knew her true origins. I thought it over and called a friend in New York, asking him to help me buy an apartment and find a school for my daughter. I would spend my entire life savings to help my daughter escape this godforsaken place, rise from the ashes, no coming back. My lawyer said the apartment would be ready soon, and so would the school. Summer was recovering well, but refused to attend the new school and insisted on returning to our small town. A month later, the lawyer brought more good news. Summer had agreed to attend school and was adjusting well to her new life in New York. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, calmly awaiting the trial to send those little brats to juvenile detention. With my intervention and the undeniable evidence on Kyle's phone, the case has been transferred to the court and prosecuted in accordance with the law. They were all over 14, old enough to face criminal charges. As long as the court declares those little bastards guilty, I'll receive a lenient sentence at their discretion. But I couldn't let my daughter relive that brutal night again, so I entrusted my lawyer to find her a renowned criminal litigation representative. Yet when the trial began, the news my lawyer brought back tore my heart apart. My daughter Summer Miller, who was supposed to be studying peacefully in New York, had appeared in court standing on the defendant's side. He even overturned all the allegations made by the representative in court, claiming everything was done with her consent. It was just a game. She was also the one who asked to take photos. How did she get here? What about Chloe? I clutched my chest in piercing pain, unable to believe this was real. Chloe only found out she wasn't at school after I called. The school said her father had requested leave for her. Her father? My heart sank. That bastard Ryan Peterson is back. He's that little bastard Kyle's uncle. Of course he'd come to rescue the little shit. My daughter got tricked again. Call the police. Who gave him permission to pick up my daughter? This is kidnapping. The lawyer shook his head helplessly. It was Summer. She slipped guardianship authorization forms among the school notices to trick her mother into signing them, including permission for Ryan to take her off campus and appear in court. This kid, is she stupid? I was so angry my blood pressure spiked, darkness clouding my vision. But now wasn't the time to collapse. My daughter was in terrible danger. Hurry, help me contact a few people, have them bring Sam back immediately, search that bastard's house. I gave the lawyer several phone numbers, all sworn brothers who'd been through hell with me. Sure enough, they quickly found the child right in that little bastard's house. There were 4 home-cooked dishes on the table, and my daughter ate as if she couldn't believe her luck. Meanwhile, that pair of siblings took turns bombarding her, brainwashing my daughter. No matter how hard my brother tried, Summer refused to leave with him. In the end, it was Chloe who rushed over with the police, slapped her twice, and dragged her home. That bastard Ryan should have been taken away by the police, but Summer whitewashed him for him. After returning home, before Chloe could even get angry, Summer turned the place upside down first. She blamed Chloe for hiding her true origins and not letting her reunite with her biological father. Then she called me a villain, first stealing someone else's wife and now trying to steal their daughter too. She even said I already knew Kyle was her cousin, and that I blew things out of proportion just to hurt her family and ruin her life. But now her father's back, and she won't be controlled by us anymore. She's dropping the lawsuit and wants me put behind bars. She's even demanding Chloe divorce me and remarry her father. After Chloe slapped me, she refused to come home and moved into a hotel with Ryan. I heard all this from behind iron bars, utterly heartbroken. I raised her for 14 years, gave her all my love, yet it couldn't compare to her biological father's sudden appearance. I paid for her education, took her traveling, did everything to broaden her horizons. Yet she never even learned basic judgment or self-protection. Didn't Chloe notice when Ryan went to Summer's school? How does she even take care of a child? Even earlier than that, Chloe had already found out. Ryan went to visit Summer at the hospital the very next day after the incident, and Summer maintained contact with him ever since. Every effort we made for Summer was under his surveillance. Summer only agreed to attend that school in New York to make it easier to meet him, to make it easier to run away from home. The lawyer's words made my head buzz. That child, she's a lost cause. The lawyer, seeing my despondency, hesitated for a long time before finally breaking professional protocol to share a secret with me. Chloe was pregnant, it was an accident, her IUD had failed, and she hadn't realized. Summer found out she was pregnant the night she had the accident. She didn't mention it, partly because she was busy taking care of Summer, and partly because she feared I'd make her abort the child. Ha ha, this is no accident, it's divine will. The heavens couldn't bear to watch my decades of effort go to waste, so they've given me a chance to start anew. But I still don't want it, this one has already disappointed me enough. Yet at a time like this, I couldn't bring myself to tell Chloe to get an abortion. She's always wanted to have a child of our own, especially now with how Summer's been acting up. Hasn't she devoted half her life to Summer, endured all the neighbors' sneers and insults for her sake? Over the past decade, though no one dared say anything to her face, how many times had she walked down the street without being pointed at and whispered about? Summer went to identify Ryan, and the hurt she suffered would only run deeper than mine. This pregnancy is a gift of fate to her. Figure out a way to separate Summer and Ryan. This case cannot be dismissed even if she no longer acknowledges me as her father. Those scumbags must face the full weight of the law. Otherwise, they'll just go on harming others. I was determined to get to the bottom of this. I thought Summer, freed from Ryan's control, would gradually come to understand my good intentions. But I overlooked one crucial problem, the inherent flaws imprinted in her genes. Although Summer was raised by us from childhood and received only positive influences, she ultimately carries her biological father's blood in her veins. She inherited his true nature. The moment Ryan found her, her bloodline truly awakened. Her true nature was completely exposed. She's selfish, foolish, and incapable of distinguishing right from wrong. Through her lies and the manipulations of the Ryan siblings, her bullying case was ultimately withdrawn. Meanwhile, my act of punishing those two little brats was irrefutably labeled as premeditated assault. To receive a lighter sentence, I must obtain forgiveness from those two little brats and their guardians. I don't need leniency in sentencing, just sentence me as the law requires. After deliberation, the court found that I had caused severe disability to another person through particularly cruel means. According to the law, I should have been sentenced to over 10 years in prison. However, considering the full circumstances of the case and my lawyer's vigorous defense, the court ultimately decided to impose a lighter sentence. The first trial ruled 8 years. I immediately stated in court that I would not appeal and would accept the judgment. Summer came that day for the sentencing, sitting beside Ryan. I was utterly disappointed in her, yet couldn't stop myself from looking at her, checking if the wounds on her face had left scars, seeing if she'd grown taller, checking if she'd truly stopped acknowledging me as her father. But she refused to meet my gaze, clinging tightly to Ryan's arm instead. Chloe noticed my disappointment and called out to me, placing a hand on her belly. I smiled, "Take good care of the baby. I'll bring gifts when I return." Summer instinctively looked up upon hearing this, and I immediately burst into tears. For 14 years, I've been giving Chloe these same reminders every time I leave the house. And every time, Summer would rush over to hug me, pouting sadly as she said, "Daddy, don't go. When Daddy leaves, Mommy always bullies me." Now, it won't be her hugging me anymore. What makes me cry is not knowing where life will take her, nor what fate awaits after this turning point in her life. I'd imagined countless possibilities, but never dared hope she'd actually come back. Because the wealthy middle-aged woman Ryan had newly hooked up with demanded he couldn't keep Summer by his side. Summer didn't want to return home, but to live our hometown. He wanted to move in with Kyle, but Kyle's mother had turned hostile, blaming Summer entirely for Kyle's disability caused by me. If Summer insisted on living with her, it wouldn't be impossible, provided he paid $1 million in compensation to Kyle. Summer truly went home to ask for money. When Chloe saw her return, she wept for joy, thinking her daughter had finally come to her senses. But upon learning she was only back for money, Chloe was so furious she threatened to sever their mother-daughter relationship on the spot, telling her to go wherever she pleased. There wasn't a cent for her in this house. She turned back to Kyle's place only to find the door shut in her face, and it was then that fear truly struck her. Chloe sent her to beg me, saying she could only come home if I acknowledged her as my daughter. I understood Chloe's good intentions. She wanted Summer to recognize me as her real father, to restore some dignity to this old man. Summer came, crying, "Dad, I want to come home. Dad, I miss school." This time I didn't indulge her. Since she still recognizes me as her father, I must shoulder a parent's educational responsibility to teach her right from wrong. I told her to go find my lawyer and recount exactly what happened at school that night, including how Ryan had persuaded her to recant her testimony. Both audio recordings and written statements are required, with signatures and fingerprints included. Kyle and my dad are both family to me. What's done is done. Let's just move on. She actually tried to smooth things over. I added one more condition: write a self-critique too, and really think about what you did wrong. If you can't write it well enough, don't bother calling me your father anymore. Seeing that Chloe and I genuinely wouldn't let her return home, she finally complied. I instructed my lawyer to keep these items securely. Though the legal trial had concluded, the judgment of morality had yet to begin. These will prove useful sooner or later. Chloe took Summer back to New York, and I entrusted my company to reliable friends to keep it running smoothly. Everything seemed to return to normal, except that I remained imprisoned. The only comfort was the little one growing inside Chloe. He upheld my hope, keeping me from abandoning myself to despair. Who could have known that less than a month after Summer returned home, something would happen to Chloe? That day after school, Summer pushed her impatiently for walking too slowly, causing her to lose balance and fall to the ground. She had a miscarriage. Summer said she was just in a hurry to go home and do her homework, and really only gave a light push. She never expected her mom to fall, but both Chloe and I knew she did it on purpose. I had Chloe dig up the school's surveillance footage, and it showed that Ryan had gone to see Summer that day. He brought her a bag of snacks, in exchange for a tiny life nurtured for half a year. Chloe was in agony, consulting lawyers everywhere in an attempt to send Summer away. But she didn't understand that from the moment she decided to give birth to this child, there was no way to shake it off. She had to bear everything this child would bring her, be it happiness or harm. And the only way to mitigate the harm was to arm herself and eliminate her vulnerabilities. That unfortunate fetus was her Achilles heel. Yet Summer felt no remorse for snuffing out a life. On the contrary, she even took pride in it. If you're so desperate for a child, why not remarry my father? Have a sibling who shares both parents with me, so we won't end up fighting over inheritance like sworn enemies. Clearly, Ryan was still brainwashing her, and she still fell for it. Chloe finally snapped. She slapped Summer hard, left and right, unleashing her fury. After finishing smoking, I calmly told her there's no need to think about the inheritance anymore. Back then, Ryan sold all the gold jewelry I had prepared for you, didn't leave a single damn thing for you. All the current assets belong to your stepfather and me. Even if we remain childless our whole lives, we won't leave them to you. I'd rather donate everything to charity. High school will be over soon. If you want to keep studying, fine. If not, just drop out. At most, I'll give you 3 more years of living expenses. After you turn 18, your life is your own responsibility. Live like a human or live like a ghost, it's your choice. If you want to find your real father, I won't stop you, but don't drag me into it. After saying these words, Chloe ignored her, refusing to speak to her for a solid 6 months. She also strictly controlled her allowance, giving her not a single cent beyond basic necessities. Ryan probably realized he couldn't extract any benefits from Summer anymore, nor could he continue disrupting her life, so he gradually stopped contacting her. Summer performed poorly in her high school graduation exams and failed to get into university. Chloe didn't bother intervening and directly enrolled her in the vocational school in our town. After enduring half a month of bullying at the vocational school, she finally understood how cruel society could be. Tearfully pleading with Chloe, she begged to repeat her senior year so she could attend university. Chloe came to discuss this with me, and I agreed. I knew attending vocational school would essentially ruin her future. Getting a college education broadens knowledge, expands horizons, and makes future life more comfortable and respectable. After all, she's my own child whom I raised with my own hands. I wouldn't want her to struggle through life. After weighing all options, I eventually sent her to that school in New York. After enduring the ordeal of vocational school, she did become much more well-behaved and stopped causing any further trouble. After repeating my senior year of high school, I achieved excellent results. Seeing a glimmer of hope again, I discussed it with Chloe and enrolled her in a prestigious private high school. Over 3 years, we spent nearly $1 million, but it was worth every penny. She performed brilliantly in her college entrance exams. However, when she received an admission letter from a top-tier university, she told Chloe she wanted to study abroad instead. Chloe and I saw her efforts and thought perhaps this was for the best. Changing environments abroad, completely cutting ties with Ryan, might help her improve. Another few million disappeared with her departure. Perhaps kindness truly brings its own rewards. Not long after she left, I was granted another sentence reduction and walked out of prison. Chloe held me and cried as if her heart would break. That miscarriage had severely damaged her health, and the doctor said it would be difficult for her to have another child. Then so be it. I'm here with you, what's there to fear? I pretended to console her lightly, but my heart was also filled with sorrow. Though already past 50, I suddenly found myself questioning the meaning of life. I've even lost interest in making money, because I don't know who I should give it to in the future. The only thing that makes me feel somewhat needed is Summer's monthly phone calls asking for money. We've silently arrived at an understanding. If she doesn't ask, we absolutely won't offer money proactively. It's the only thread that maintains our connection with this child. We all hoped she would continue her studies for a few more years, so she'd keep calling us for a few more years. We all knew very well that once she became self-reliant, she would completely cut ties with us. These few years became the most difficult time of our lives. But we were wrong again. For years later, after graduating from university, she neither chose further education nor stopped asking for money. She's in love with a wealthy young man, and they've already started discussing marriage, preparing to come back to meet the parents. I made some discreet inquiries about the young man and am quite satisfied. His family is in the garment manufacturing business, which makes us quite well matched in social standing. Moreover, his family is from a southern state, unaware of Summer's childhood misfortunes, which brings me great relief. What comforts me most is that the parents Summer wants him to meet is me and Chloe. This shows she still recognizes me as her father and hasn't completely cut ties with me. Chloe was also surprised and cried in my arms for a while. A few days later, we flew to a southern city to meet the boy and his parents. The boy is excellent, clearly someone worthy of entrusting your future to. His family is also very satisfied with Summer. At the dinner table, they promised to give her a grand wedding, including the property and cars. The total value amounts to hundreds of millions. The bridal gift money will be given symbolically, just $1 million in cash. Chloe and I will also provide a dowry. We asked the young couple what they'd like. The boy said a red envelope would be enough. Summer said that the apartment in New York could serve as a dowry, to be used for the child's education in the future. The next day, I took her and the boy straight to New York to handle the transfer procedures. On the day the procedures were completed, Summer hugged me and Chloe and cried, "Dad, Mom, I was too immature before. I was wrong. We'll definitely make sure to take good care of you in the future." Because of this one sentence, I spent over $200,000 more to order a car for Summer. She's our only daughter. Who else would we spend our money on if not her? What's the point of raising children your whole life if not for the continuation of love? The couple returned south, got their marriage certificate, and began preparing for the wedding. Everything went smoothly. On the eve of the wedding, Chloe and I flew to the groom's city ahead of time, only to encounter a strangely familiar face in the hotel restaurant. That man's face remained etched in my memory. I took a photo of him and sent it to Summer, asking if she remembered this person. She said she didn't recognize him and told me not to overthink it. Shortly after, the pretty boy's phone rang. He glanced at me nervously, made some excuse, and tried to slip away. I blocked him at the door and gave him a sound thrashing. He couldn't take much of a beating and quickly confessed. Years ago, he was the one who pretended to be a talent scout and swindled Summer out of $50,000. But he was just an accomplice. The mastermind was Ryan. Besides, Summer had already met him before and had forgiven both him and Ryan. This time, he was actually invited by Summer to attend the wedding. What kind of thing are you? In what capacity are you attending my daughter's wedding? I'm a friend of the bride's father. I'm even scheduled to give a speech at the ceremony. I genuinely felt a heart attack coming on. Thankfully, emergency treatment arrived in time. I didn't die. But Summer seemed determined to finish me off. The doctors warned me against emotional stress, yet she brought Ryan anyway. She deceived Chloe and spoke harshly to me. We share no blood relation, yet I've called you dad for 22 years. I've been unfilial, and now it's time to give my real father the recognition he deserves. I want my biological father to walk me down the aisle and hand me to my husband, not a convicted felon like you. My life was given by my father, so my wedding gifts should rightfully go to him. You don't object, do you? When I heard those words, my heart suddenly stopped aching, nor was I disappointed anymore. It suddenly dawned on me that people's destinies are written in their embryonic stages. It's predetermined by genetics. No matter how hard one strives, it can never be changed. Anything goes, as long as you're happy. I waved my hand, dismissing her as she stood poised for a verbal duel with me. Old Miller, had enough? Tell me, why did you have to show off back then? Lost your whole life to it, didn't you? Truly terrifying to be uneducated. Ryan had already left, but then he came back to twist the knife. I smiled and said, do good deeds without asking about the future. You're celebrating too soon, my friend. After the father and daughter left, my son-in-law came to see me. Chloe had called him over. Dad, Mom already told me about what happened between you and Summer. Don't worry, I won't disown you. Summer is young and willful. I'll persuade her to reconcile with you. I know you've been good to her. My parents both say you're a wonderful father. I was fine before, but he made my heart ache again. I was about to go home, but he changed my mind again. I still have to attend this wedding. I have a gift for you, but I can only present it at the wedding. Whether you want it or not, you can decide for yourself then. Alright, thank you, Dad. After my son-in-law left, Chloe angrily scolded me. Even if you like this son-in-law, you shouldn't just throw money down the drain, should you? Look how much trouble this wretched girl has caused you. I'm certainly not attending any wedding. I'm a human being. I can't share a table with beasts. I patted her hand. Just this once, just this one last time. On Summer's wedding day, I didn't dress up for the occasion. I just wore casual clothes and sat in a corner, quietly watching Ryan and Summer's performance. I thought I didn't care at all anymore. But when Ryan led Summer down the aisle step by step and placed her hand in the groom's, I still cried like a fool. The next moment, when it was Ryan's turn to give the father of the bride speech, what came through the speakers was Summer's childlike voice. Through tears, she recounted how she'd been utterly shaken when she first saw Ryan in the emergency room and learned she wasn't my biological daughter. She wept as she described how Ryan brainwashed her, tricked her into dropping the lawsuit, and coerced her into portraying the brutal abuse she'd endured as a consensual game. 22-year-old Summer was terrified to hear her own voice from when she was 15. She lost her mind on stage, snatched the microphone, smashed the speakers, yet couldn't turn off the surround sound system in the celebration hall. And then there were the handwritten confessions flashing one by one on the massive screen. Everyone except her fell silent, watching in mute astonishment the Ryan who had been basking in glory just moments before. Until the audio finished playing, my son-in-law was the first to break the silence, holding the microphone as he bowed deeply to the audience. "Dad, thank you for your gift. I accept it." From a corner where he couldn't see me, I nodded at him, waved my hand, and turned to leave, leaving behind my heartfelt blessing for him. Such a fine young man deserves a wonderful marriage. Such excellent genes shouldn't be tainted. I returned home and instructed my lawyer to file a lawsuit against Summer to reclaim the property and sports car I'd gifted her, since she had unilaterally terminated our father-daughter relationship. The evidence was the video of her holding Ryan's arm at the wedding. She wanted to give her biological father recognition. I granted her wish. But she didn't back down, immediately countersuing me for invading her privacy and ruining her marriage. That doomed marriage left her pocket swollen with profit. To free himself from her and Ryan, the man chose to spend money eliminating calamity, not only forfeiting the bride price but also giving her an apartment and a car. Father and daughter returned to our small town, provocatively cruising the streets in their luxury car. Yet just then, Chloe and I found hope in desperate circumstances. Chloe was pregnant again. Perhaps it was the expensive medication that worked, or maybe heaven truly had eyes. On my daughter's 1-month birthday, the court verdict came down. Based on Summer and Ryan's actions, the court ruled they had caused us severe emotional harm. I thought I was doomed to a lifetime of loneliness, but she came back. She was ordered to return the New York apartment and part of the car purchase payment. Summer froze when she received the verdict, because the apartment was all she had left. She had sold the house immediately after getting it in the divorce, and Ryan had swindled her out of the money. She later sold one of the 2 luxury cars to cover living expenses for herself and her daughter. I reclaimed the apartment, leaving her homeless again. To make matters worse, Ryan, upon hearing she lost the lawsuit, immediately sold the car I bought for her at a low price overnight and disappeared with the money. Summer was not only homeless but also owed me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everything unfolded as I had anticipated, yet Summer was still dreaming, stubbornly refusing to transfer the deed of the New York apartment. I filed for enforcement without hesitation and immediately reported to the police, demanding they reinvestigate the case where Summer had been swindled out of $50,000 years ago. I have video evidence of that scammer. The facts are crystal clear. The police quickly tracked down Ryan and recovered part of the car payment. A month later, I watched court officers personally carry Summer out of our apartment. Only then did she snap out of her delusion, grabbing my arm while sobbing hysterically. "Dad, I was wrong. I'll never leave again. My little sister's still young. Let me take care of you in your old age." I held my newborn daughter who had just turned 1 month old, shielding her from her grasp. "No need. I never raised children just for retirement support." "Then what did you raise them for? Tell me. I'll do anything you ask." "You can't do it. I raised them to pass on love, but you don't deserve it." The end.